Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to still be excited for Starfield after a somewhat underwhelming gameplay reveal demo at the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase on June 12th.
Yeah, we all of us on the internet, we all looked in the bag with Bethesda RPG written on the side, and now we're kind of all wondering what we really expected to see in there.
I don't know what I expected.
Yeah, that's true. In the twist of the millennium, an RPG made by Bethesda looks like Bethesda RPG, complete with standard gunplay, straightforward NPC conversations, and even a zesty sprinkle of performance issues. All in all, this was a good showing for Bethesda's next game, even if it didn't quite have the knock your space socks off moment. It's part of the pants. So that would be hard to do, yeah.
And in Internet First, the reaction to this very anticipated reveal is average to positive. In a sampling of comments from YouTube, Reddit, and social media, the dominant take is that the gunplay is uninteresting, but people are still excited for a Bethesda RPG in space, and that is exactly what we see here.
Yeah.
I'm not playing for gunplay. I'm playing to find a space wife.
Oh, me too. I want a green-skinned reptilian space wife, ever since Rhea in Elden Ring. Anyway, everybody was very mature about it, and I appreciate that. For some reason, our games is the only subreddit where everyone was mad, but YouTube comments, like Bethesda subreddit, Starfield subreddit, everybody was just like, you know what, this looks pretty good. A lot of solid high fives around. It was a good moment.
The only part that got folks a little heated was Starfield game director Todd Howard's claim that Starfield will have 1,000 explorable planets.
Over 1,000 planets, all open for you to explore.
Whoa!
Depending on your level of cynicism, that either sounds like the coolest space game ever or an empty galaxy filled with copy and pasted planets.
I got a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B there.
It could be both. There's plenty of planets.
A couple of other comments from Howard in an interview with IGN also has cautious fans a little on edge. The same man that promised we could scale mountains in the distance.
That mountain is not just a backdrop. You can walk all the way to the top of that mountain.
Which you could, but it was, whatever. Is now telling us that if we like the sunsets on a random planet, we could just build a whole life there.
You want to go land on that weird planet and check it out and build an outpost and live your life there and watch the sunset because you like the view of the moons there? Like, we go for it.
Yeah, and I'm going to move in my snake wife. We're going to build this nice little, snake hovel in the side of a hill where it overlooks the dual sunsets of Tarius 9. I can see it now. Thank you, Todd.
I feel like she's gonna lay her eggs in you or something, and it's gonna kill you or something. I would be careful, Lawrence.
My many young will split me in half, and it will be the happiest fraction of a second of my life. Like I was describing, finding an idyllic space sunset to raise your hybrid alien family is the whole reason the human race started making video games in the first place. So Todd is throwing around some really powerful imagery here for specific people like me.
And we've actually got tons of Todd quotes, TM, and Starfax, TM, out of the gameplay demo and IGN's interview, so we're going to present them all with a brief description and analyze what we think it means for the game. Oh, and because we're games journalists, we're going to review Starfield at every step with a rating out of 10.
Having never played it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Good features make the score go up, bad one makes the score go down. Does that make sense? All right, buckle up. Grab your space
wand.
Stirrups at wand, yeah, space wand, and take your space Dramamine. Here we go.
Star fact number 1. It'll have 1,000 planets. So many planets. Todd Howard confirmed that Starfield will use procedural generation to create these planets because, duh. This is the same approach used in games like 2008's Spore, 2014's Elite Dangerous, and 2016's No Man's Sky, but procedurally generated content is rarely interesting content, as players of those games have probably observed. I mean, I have. So while that sounds like a lot of video game, what use is it if 200 of the planets are just straight ice balls? So it's just ice and you can do nothing on them. So what do you think? Starfield has 1,000 planets. Review it now. Charlotte and Lawrence, go for it.
I'm thinking about it on the back of the box, and that's a big number right there.
It is.
For me, at least, though, I've played those games, all of them, because I'm always trying to find a space game that's cool. Elite Dangerous kind of gets the closest, but still, there's no reason to go to every planet. And a lot of them, you can tell it's just like, oh, the procedural generation engine put the rockiness at a 5 on this one. Got it.
Right.
So
right.
This one's rocky and trees. This one's rocky with no trees. And once you see it, you've seen it. So I don't know. That's not very exciting to me. If we're talking Starfield only has 1,000 planets and that's it because we haven't described or considered any other features yet, I'm putting 6 out of 10 on that one. That's a lot of planets, all right? 1,000 is a big number. Todd gets points for the 4 dig, but I've seen enough empty planets in my life that I'm still unimpressed.
All 1,000 could be bangers, or none could. So I will be giving this a Schrodinger's score. I'm giving it a out of 1,000.
Oh, wow. Good. Out of 1,000. Okay. I'm going to say that every one of these planets is going to be a banger. Every single one of them.
And they're all gonna work.
They just work.
Wow.
So I'm starting it at 11 out of 10. I trust in Todd Howard. I'm joking, guys. I don't actually trust in Todd Howard.
Star fact number 2, this game has 200,000 lines of dialogue. Oh, baby. That's nearly twice Fallout 4, which means the game's story is going to be nearly twice as good. That's how math works. So this number, this 200,000 lines of dialogue, is kind of presented as evidence that while Starfield's planets may be procedurally generated, there's still tons of bespoke, handcrafted content in the game.
Tons to bespoke.
Damn it, how come I didn't think? The gameplay demo showed an NPC reacting to specific aspects of your character build. Like, oh, you have a background in blah. So obviously, you know, a lot of different lines to recognize all that stuff. So there might be a lot of conditional dialogue based on either your character build or quests that you've done. So 200,000 voice lines. How do you review Starfield now?
Maybe it's like a Safdie Brothers movie, and they're all happening at the same time in different parts of the room. And I really like Good Time and Uncut Gems, so I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
I actually don't like this at all because generally they're all kind of the same of like, ooh, ah, and though they count as lines, and I've done those. Ooh, ah. So this goes from 11 out of 10 all the way down to 3 out of 10.
But Bruce, there's 200,000.
Ah, whoa,
For me at least, I really, really liked seeing dialogue that recognized character build. The problem is, all the dialogue in the demo was pretty boilerplate. I mean, Bruce, kind of what you were saying about the lines being, like, there can be 200,000 of them, but if they're all like, thank you for bringing back that quest objective. And then the last part is like, thief or master adventurer, like if they chop them up like they're reading out birthdays or something like that, that's cool but not cool enough. Still, I have to put points on the board for anything that makes this more of an RPG rather than less. I'm going up to 6.5 out of 10.
Star fact number 3, No Man's Skyrim. We finally did get to see the game in action, and all the on-foot stuff looks very familiar. You shoot dudes in helmets that have level numbers on their nameplates. Little EXP numbers pop up when you do anything. There is a digi-picking mini-game. Don't be fooled by the digi, it's a picking you know. Nobody's exactly complaining about any of this. Bethesda RPGs are widely enjoyed, but anyone hoping for anything new didn't find it. It also didn't quite match comments from Howard in a Telegraph interview last year, where he described Starfield as, quote, more hardcore of a role-playing game. Then again, in context, Howard could have been talking more about the fantasy of being in the game and not the mechanical complexity of it. I don't know. Anyway, Todd clearly lied to everyone yet again. What do you rate Starfield now that you've seen it on foot?
I trusted him before, and he's clearly lied to me, as Lawrence has proved in his script. So I went from 11 out of 10 to 3 out of 10. So now I'm going to stay at a 3 out of 10. That's where I'm going to stay, because clearly Todd lied to me. That said, though, everybody lies to me about video games all the time.
Aw, man, you've been abused, man. You got to deal with that.
I'm jaded.
When it came to the gameplay, I wasn't surprised, and I wasn't surprised that I wasn't surprised. I feel like they make that game because it's the best one they know how to make. And that sounds really shitty, but it's not. Like, it's really fun. And if they knew how to improve on that formula, they would. Like, I'm sure they prototyped a million things and found that, you know what, that bread and butter is still delicious. So, but we got to punish Todd for lying. So 6.5, taking it back down to 6. Sorry, Todd, you lost half a point.
I feel like I set myself up for failure doing them all as bits up until now.
Do another bit, Charlotte.
Yeah, make it funny.
Nobody puts me in a box. I will not be typecast. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10.
Star fact number 4. You could shoot stuff in space. I mean, of course. We finally get to see space combat. Looks pretty good. In the interview with IGN, Todd Howard described space combat as fairly slow, comparing it to the 1989 game Mech Warrior, which was all about slow, stompy, tank-like mechs. Howard also described an energy management system where you set power levels to your weapons, shields, and engines. He compared it directly to 2012's FTL. Though, from the sounds of it, a game near and dear to my heart, it's very close to 1993's Star Wars X-Wing, which I loved. Kind of a flight sim, but like a flight sim for people that are stupid like me. So I enjoyed it. And if it's like that, then I think I'll enjoy it.
So for everything that I didn't see that I was kind of hoping they would just whoopsie surprise me with on foot was actually in space, which kind of makes sense. That's the new thing, right? It's being in space. I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome. It's an entirely new gameplay mode, and it looks great. The visuals were great. They have this like boost that can make space combat probably feel a little snappier. And the sound design was so good. I mean, it's like fake space, right? Because it's all these rolling, echoey explosions, but I thought it was really neat. All the guns sounded really cool. The ships popping apart sounded great. I'm in. I'm still mad at Todd, but we're all the way up to an 8.5 out of 10 now.
If I'm getting the FTL acronym right, I'm going to give this a 9 out of Faster 10 Light.
That's right, Faster 10 Light.
Great.
You got it.
Yeah,
You got the acronym.
I love space shooting, and I like it done well.
Since Todd Howard is doing something like 1993's X-Wing, shoots up from a 3 out of 10 all the way back up to a 12 out of 10. We're going all the way past
Wow,
it.
that's unprecedented.
Because I love Todd.
Wow, you got over that quick. Star fact number 5, you can do more than just shoot stuff in space. So this is a clip where Todd narrates all the verbs in space, and there they are in a handy bulleted list. So what do you think about that list? How does that move your review needle?
All the things we love in space. So I'm gonna stick with the 12 out of 10. I love space. Todd Howard knows I love space, and he's my best friend.
No, I'm going to have to give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, that's a little bit extreme, but I can't put any space between it because Todd took it all.
Nice.
You know what? I agree. You guys are dead on here. This is a hell of a list. All right, so here's what's gonna happen. There's a ship. It's got a distress signal, right? I board it. It's a trap. There's pirates. I shoot all the pirates, but it turns out the lizard space princess was actually stowing away on board. That's how we meet. All right. And then she's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I just got a free ship." So, that's how we meet. And it's a fun story we're going to tell our 100 Snake Offkin someday.
Star fact number 6, my own personal favorite. You can build your own ship and pick your own cruise. Woohoo! Cool
Space
boy.
trucking.
We don't really know much beyond the surface level stuff, but this is great simply because it gets us closer to an entire spaceship crewed by Macho Man Randy Savage clones. And how does the prospect of an entire ship of anime women grab you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm going to speak up before Lawrence gets to talk about that, but this is the way I play Bethesda RPGs. I make the game play itself. So I bring in a bunch of macho mans and anime women and have them fight enemies, and I stand back and watch. It's exactly the way I play. So we were at a 12 out of 10. This is going to a 15 out of 10 all the way up. Woo, baby.
What happens if you can eject a cloud of macho mans into space?
They die.
It's like chaff. You got a missile coming after you, so you pull a lever. 12 macho mans get released. Of course, they asphyxiate immediately.
Yes, but it does draw the ire of that missile strike.
Yeah, that body mass rippling out into space, the heat signature. Yeah, it's gonna.
Oh no!
The idea of hiring a bunch of NPCs to run your ship is super, super cool. I've always been into those sub modes where you assign people to go do something for you and then they come back in 2 hours with some money and a little trinket or whatever. This is the whole thing where you're on a ship and you're like seeing the people do the stuff. If they all have their own stats and they're all good at various things and you can like hire up a particular crew, go around the galaxy, have some adventures together. Now that is pretty similar to FTL because I would get pretty attached to various crew members because we'd go through some bad times. They would be in I'd have to depressurize their room for a little bit and be like, okay, Steve, just take this one on the chin. Nah, you're good. But because of that, we would have a bond. So I'm looking forward to forming weirdly deep and personal relationships with a bunch of robots on my ship. 9.3 out of 10.
I love customization. I would live in a character creator if I could. I am super jazzed to make my spaceship look the way I want it to, because that's like my favorite bits about space games. I love having my Destiny ship. I love my ship in No Man's Sky. I'm giving it a 8.5 out of 10.
All right, we're back to serious, Charlotte.
I contain multitudes. I'm complex.
Star fact number 7. The story is about finding old Earth artifacts that have some mysterious power. Of course it is. In Starfield, you join Constellation, the last faction of true space explorers with the nerdiest description ever.
Is the last group of space explorers kind of this NASA meets Indiana Jones meets the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Todd loves Indiana Jones, by the way. Loves it. He's always wanted to make a video game. Apparently, you and the other space nerds are looking for old Earth artifacts that are magical or mystical or whatever. It very similar sounds like the Halo show. Howard thinks grabbing all those magic rocks will take 20% longer than previous Bethesda games, though. Estimating the main story will take 30 to 40 hours to finish. So, the story's about magical artifacts. There's 20% more of it. What's your review?
Well, my review was going to be 8 out of 10, but if I have to add 20% onto that, then I guess it brings us to a 10 out of 10. Wait,
The math checks
Wrong.
out.
No, it doesn't. That's 25.
I don't know. When it comes to Bethesda's storytelling, I'm not. It's like sometimes they can have interesting themes, but the dialogue and the characters don't really stick around. Not with me anyway. So I'm not super expecting a whole lot. And also the dialogue in the trailer didn't tell me that they're doing anything other than the most like boilerplate generic storyline. So the music makes it feel like it's kind of tied to the romanticism of exploring space, and the imagery when they're handling the magic rocks is kind of 2001-ish, which makes sense because this is all very 70s science fiction. So I don't know. I just hope the story is not gated by pushing me into the other modes that I may want to stay away from. So I'm imagining this point in the story missions where they're like, we have this rock, we have to research it, but we have to have a level 5 science to research it, but we need a level 2 science center to research level 5 science, and to get that level 2 science center, you're gonna have to go find crystanium, but that's like 15 galaxies away, so you're gonna have to research these new engines and a higher cutting laser, and by then I'm on the floor. I don't want to shoot rocks with a laser. I just don't want to do that. They're going to make me do it 7 out of 10.
I can't stand League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, so we're busting this down to a 10 out of 10.
Star fact number 8. The protagonist will not have a voice. You know what? For me, good. Save more of those 200,000 lines for recognizing the fact that I have 8 intelligence or whatever. That's the good stuff. I don't need to hear myself talk. 7.3 out of 10.
Charlotte? I think what Charlotte is saying is she has given it was it a 9 out of 10? 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. I give that bit a 10 out of 10. Yeah!
Thank you. Fuck. Star fact number 9. The game looked good. Sometimes. A lot of the time. I mean, I don't know. I watched it on a very compressed, crushed stream that on a glary TV, so it was kind of hard. And I've rewatched some of it since, but like that first impression was like, it looks fine. I like the art style a lot, so I can't really speak to graphical stuff. A 7.5 out of 10.
I hate to keep, I guess, beating a dead bird in a bag, but that, it's a Bethesda game. I'm kind of used to them being modern in some specific ways and maybe 4 years behind the times in every other way. Seems like that's about where we are. I will say, yeah, the terrain looked really good. NPC models looked surprisingly good, even if the camera work to them was very nostalgic and basic. The space combat effects were really nice. I like the clouds of particles flying off in slow motion. So, you know what? Mods will fix it like they always do. So I'm gonna wait for that 4K texture pack, and then I'll be punching space with the best of them. 8 out of 10.
I can't believe they showed low FPS. I can't believe they showed something that was like 30 FPS, maybe even lower. So I'm busting it down from a 10 out of 10. 2 out of 10. All the way down. All the way down. I coughed all over it. Star fact number 10. You can't fly from space to atmosphere. Oh, that's such a bummer. Unfortunately, Todd Howard confirmed that Starfield will not support flying from space down to a planet's surface. His rationale is that the development resources required to create that moment were better spent on making the on-foot and in-space experiences better. But how important is that moment to you? More importantly, how does it affect your review, y'all?
That sucks. That sucks. That's a 1 out of 10 for me.
I agree.
That's like part of the exploration. I'd rather have half or even a quarter of the planets of the 1,000 promised and the ability to go down and like have that. I don't know. That like even when No Man's Sky was broken and empty on day 1, taking off from the planet into the atmosphere and into space is to this day one of the coolest things I've experienced in a game.
Lawrence, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that moment is super important. I think it's super important at the beginning. I can kind of see Howard's logic, how if you're designing for somebody's 100th hour in a game, all the sacrifices you need to make to enable that technology might not be worth it, especially when you're dealing with Creation Engine. I think that's sort of the elephant in the room. This question is dancing around. I don't know that their rework of Creation Engine could really even feasibly support a seamless transition between 2 game scenarios like that. Even Elite Dangerous has a kind of a fake crossfade between being in space and being in atmosphere. It's different physics and stuff, so there has to be a click over at some point. But I don't know. I think it does add a lot to those games with No Man's Sky or even Elite Dangerous. With like Elite Dangerous, if you're landing on the planet, there's a really cool amount of skill involved with like deciding your approach so that you swing around the right side of the planet where you want to land, because if you don't, you have to fly around the whole thing and it takes forever. But to do that at the right speed and right altitude as a space pilot, to like zoom into a system, go right to the planet you want, hit it at the perfect angle, and then go right down to a landing pad in one smooth connected sequence is so awesome. And it makes you feel so accomplished and so in the moment and controlling everything that it's a real bummer Starfield's not going to have that. I'd like to think that maybe future updates could enable something like that, but that's a bit weak. That's a little weak. We should be beyond loading screens by now, right? Wasn't that the whole promise of this generation? Todd, you biffed it. Boo, Todd. It's important. Everything else looks pretty cool though, with my snake wife. So out of deference to my snake wife, I'm only busting it down to 5 out of 10. But I'm very disappointed.
I'm also disappointed, much like Charlotte and Lawrence, which means I'm going to -5 out of 10. And the negatives, Todd, that's for you, my friend.
Bonus star fact number 11. It's really not one, though. Bethesda's going to make Fallout 5 after The Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh.
Woo, yeah. Todd Howard just kind of dropped that at the end of his interview. He was like, yeah, we're making Elder Scrolls 6, and then we're going to make Fallout 5, so we're busy. Okay, cool. Has nothing to do with Starfield, but because of that, I'm still changing my Starfield review. That's right. This is more of a summary of everything than critically weighing in the pending, like playing Fallout 5 in a decade. I didn't really expect a lot from Starfield, but it exceeded those non-expectations. So because of that, I give it the noble and the very safe Game Journalist 8 out of 10.
What about you, Charlotte?
I'm going to go New Age Games Journalist and write an 8 or 9 page, 8,000 word, scoreless review.
Scoreless review.
And I'll probably talk about like my relationship with like my dad or something.
Let's say you have to link it to some life trauma.
Let me look in the pantry and see what I got. I am very excited for this game. I'm going to play the fuck out of it. Yeah. It's going to be an awesome like couch console experience. I love Fallout 4. I actually have never played Skyrim.
Oh, Skyrim's good.
And maybe this will become the new best or most liked RPG, and I'll never have to feel shame for that again.
Since Todd Howard is my best friend, I'm giving it a solid 10 out of 10. Because we are best friends and we always will be.
Gotta support your bros.
You gotta support your bros, even though sometimes he makes a game where you can't fly down to the planet.
If you can't fly from space down to the planet, that probably means no atmospheric flying, which means you can't fly over a city and just kick 100 macho mans out the back while you, like, crop dust it.
In the interest of wrapping up this edit for Matt Peak, since it's incredibly and impossibly long, here are a few patrons that are worth 10,000 planets, not 1,000. Aaron Fraze, Rook, Crab Foam, Christopher Glavin, and Sean McLaughlin.
It's funny you bring that up, Bruce, because I have a handful of patrons here that are even cooler than your best friend Todd Howard.
No way.
That's right. Charles Gard, Pete, Chris Portaccio, Matt, and Albert Cullum all have way cooler jackets.
I don't believe that.
Did you see his, like, had to do it to him posture?
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Todd owns the stage.
Damn, Todd. Todd the God, Howie.